up to is Daled. So the Maimon is explaining that Yofeh Sho'oh Achas b'tshuva u'maisim tovim we call Chai Olam Haba. So Chai Olam Haba is from the highest dargis, the Yud Nivra Olam Haba and Behei Olam Hazeh. The Gemara says, so that's Chachma. However, through Maisa, Torah and Mitzvahs, Tshuva down here, we draw on the source of that, the Atzmius of Ein Sof. That's the Nekuda. He started to explain that it's Nizgala Dafke in Mitzrayim, which is why Anoichi, which is higher than Anoichi, reference to Hashem himself, higher than Yud Vavke, is Lashon Mitzvah, is Egyptian, which is a big pella, but the answer is because, as he says at the end of Ois Gimel, the Yesh Ha'amiti, the true I am, of which there is nothing that precedes him, is expressed in the Yesh HaNivra, which is why the Yesh HaNivra feels the same way. We feel that I am intrinsically. We don't feel the constant creative force. That's only possible because it's an expression of the Yesh HaMiti. In other words, with everything which exists, even perceptions, has to have a source in Torah. So either it's directly, I mean, source in Ruchnius. Nothing can exist in the Olam Hazeh independently. No idea, no concept, no experience can exist in a vacuum. It's because this world is a consequence of the constant creative force in the Likus. There simply cannot be anything in the world that is not an expression of a Likus. The paradox is that Adarabah, the lowest, the Olam Hazeh, which is the world of Sheker and Klippa and Hell and Vehester, paradoxically is rooted and expresses the deepest truths of Elikus, but in a concealed or corrupted way. And the mission is to heal it. Another way of describing the whole purpose of creation. And teshuva is the whole key to bringing redemption. And what's teshuva is really to return, to heal. It's about really changing or bringing anything fundamentally new to anybody or anything. Everything is a likus, or the consequence of a likus, I should say. So what you feel and what you're aspiring, etc., so it's to just unlock that and reveal the source of it. And the most dramatic expression of that is in the very yeshus of our world, the very arrogance of Pari, the complete denial of anything other than himself, as declaring himself as divine, and having made himself the ultimate lie, is really an expression of the ultimate truth. That expresses and invested in you is the true Yesh Amiti, I am that I am, and nothing precedes me. And therefore, as we learned in the Maimar, I think the main point of the Maimar of Tzavshin Chav Gimel, and all of its haskalah and nuance, is that nothing is irredeemable. That Ein Sof is yeded lamata mata adin tachlis, because everything, the lower you get, the deeper the investure, as it were, nothing is irredeemable. Nothing, even Pare. So Dafka Andoichi is Lashon Mitzri. Just incidentally, I need to look up the sources a little bit, but someone asked me yesterday, Shliach sent me a friend, why is the Lashon of the Zoya that Ein Sof Maila Adin Ketz or Lamata Mat Adin Tachlis? Why not keep the language uniform? Maila Adin Ketz or Lamata Mat Adin Ketz? All the Maila Adin Tachlis or Lamata. So I think in Samach Vov, I also read this, the Diak is explained, I don't know, but I'm just suggesting, because the fact is that Maila Adin Ketz, there's no end. There's no end to the revelation. It's bligvul. But in terms of Lamata Mata, it does come to an end. Olam Hazeh is the last stop, thank God. There's nothing lower than this. There's nothing lower than complete denial of the Eibishter. So it's not adin ketz. There is a ketz, but in tachlis means to say it's unfathomable. It's unfathomable, the degree of the concealment and the yeshes. How could this be? And the answer is, it's unfathomable because really it's the expression of the unfathomableness of Atzmus. The Anoichi Misha Anoichi. So it's not, there is a ketz, right? But it's ein tachlis, meaning to say, you cannot fathom, how could it be? This yeshes and even on a simple level, the terrible things that happen in Olam Hazeh, like unfathomable what human beings can do to other human beings. It's terrible concealment. But at the end of the day, this is all rooted in the greatest essence, deepest essential eye of Hashem, that we desperately need to reveal in the Olam Hazeh and, as mentioned, heal it all and transform it all. So continuing now is Daled, and now to translate this in personal avodah. So that term Anoichi Aish, God Lamalos, as we said, it's great virtue that it's higher than Shem Havaya. The essence as opposed to revelation. Since it's not one of the 10 or 7 holy names of Hashem. So Yechelim lo Omrod can be said and is said, Gam b'maimed u'matzav shekodim netilas yadoyim. Even before a Jew washes his hands, so the Anoichi of Hashem, since it's not a holy name, can be said. Where is it said? Or like in Meida Ani. Even when a Jew is in a situation, he means this in a symbolic sense now, that a Yid, he's in a state where he cannot mention the holy name, he's impure. A little made Torah, and he certainly can't learn Torah. So there is no connection to holiness, so it would seem. He can't mention any of Hashem's holy names, he can't learn Torah. Nonetheless, and Dafkin, even in such a situation, it's Tavekvar, he is already being commanded. Al Inyan Havayda, you have a connection, and you say Meida Ani, Amiris Meida Ani, which doesn't mention Hashem's name, and addresses Meida Ani Lefanecha, before you, no name of Hashem, directly Atzmos, which no tumah in the world can contaminate. There can be no separation between the Meida Ani of a Jew and the Eibishter. Moreover, this Meida Ani is the essential point. It comes before learning Torah and doing mitzvahs. It's the foundation of it all. In brackets, like the brachas over Torah, which precedes it, which you spoke about before. So that is hide in Torah itself, the bracha of Torah. But I feel even Ha'aretz doesn't understand what he's learning as an ignorant person, a simple person. How do you oil the Torah? He's called up to the Torah al pidin, and he must make the bracha. He doesn't understand anything. The answer is he's connecting to the essence, which is beyond understanding, higher than the articulation of Hashem's Torah as wisdom. He's connecting to the Anoichi of Torah, the author. And it's not a brach in vain, God forbid, even though he doesn't understand what's being read. But this essential connection, we have to see that it should spread. The whole mitziyusei shel isha Yisraeli. What's the point of davening? The point of davening is this nekuda of connection, this essential bond. That's a neshama bound up with the essence of Hashem should spread and manifest throughout his entire consciousness, and that's affected through davening. I want to read to you they send us here in Order 28 to see the Sikha that the Rabbi said before this Maimer. I'm going to read to you part of it. The Rebbe said as follows. He said the Frierdiker Rebbe related that his father, the Rebbe Rashab, when he was 9.5 years old approximately, and his elder brother, the Razor of Zalman Aden, who was 11 years old. Now, Zalman Aden was a Baki Bediktuk. He was an expert in grammar, and he would daven with much more attention to the grammar in his davening, more so than the Rebbe Rashab, who was all of 9 years old, 9.5 years old. And there's the nature of children. He used to mekanter means like rib him in matters connected to davening, because he was the expert davener, and the Rebbe Rashab was not. I'm not sure if this stage in his life he was still saying "w" for "le," but as a little child he did Weber, he would say. Not the Rebbe, he couldn't say a "r." That was when he was very small. But here he's already, So here's the story. So once, when they're on the way to Cheder, this is the stuff of their conversation. So the Razor, Reb Zalman Aden, just to remind you that his name Razor was given by the Tzemach Tzedek, is the Zayda. He called him Razor. Razor, of course, means Rosa, secret. Rosa the Ein Sof, the mystery of the Ein Sof. That's the illusion here. He was a very great man. He told you stories about him. So the older brother, the Razor, asks the Rebbe Rashab, why in Meida Ani is there a nekuda point after the word bechemla, before the final words Rabbi Monasech, right? So it's Meida Ani lefnech melech chai v'kayim, shechazati b'nishmasi bechemla, period, Rabbi Monasech. So the reason apindigla is, it's important because the word bechemla means compassionately. So not to read it bechemla Rabbi Monasech with great compassion. Bechemla Rabbi with great compassion, and Monasecha is your trustworthiness. That's not the pshat. It's you returned my soul bechemla, mercifully. Period. And then Rabbi Monasecha, great is your trustworthiness that you restore my life to me each morning. That's the reason apinigla. Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. But this is a diktuk thing, where you pause. So he's asking, the older brother is asking, so why is there nekuda there? As if to say, like, you don't need the nekuda. If you understand what you're saying, you don't need the period. So the Rebbe Rashab answered, he's 9.5 years old, that the whole inyan of Rabba and Monasecha, great is your trustworthiness, it's a nekuda, it's a pintele. And the whole avodah is, in Yiddish, die pinteles aufeinander gehen. That this essential bond, we need to then spread it and manifest it, that it should permeate everything, our entire lives. So a little bit later, sometime later, again, they're talking about davening. And the Razah asks the Rebbe Rashab, what is the inyan that we daven every day? It's a very good question. It's a very good question. Api halacha, originally davening was as per need. You need something from the Eibishter, you ask. If you don't need, there's nothing to ask. Every day to daven the same words over and over again. We said it yesterday, why are we saying it again? It's a very good question. So the Rebbe Rashab answered, how many times does God have to hear? He's wonderful and praise him. Say it once a minute. Once in a lifetime is good enough. Once a day, once a week, every day, over and over again. So the Rebbe brings this story because it's a hemshech to the first conversation. So the Rebbe Rashab answered that this is the whole inyan, the nekuda, this pintel at this point at the beginning of the day. So the whole davening is to constantly work at revealing it and spreading it. And then he said, the Rebbe Rashab to his older brother, the word bechemla in compassion or mercifully appears in davening twice. Once by the Meida Ani, and a second time when? Yes, before the Shema in Avas Eilam. No, what's the Avas Olam Aftana, right there, Bechemla, you love us mercifully. Said the Rebbe Rashab the second time, there's no point. There's no nakuda, there's no dot. Why? Because you're in the middle of davening and this dot already has dissolved, meaning to say spread, and it's permeating consciousness. So no longer does the word bechemla, your compassion, have that point there, because we're now well into davening before Kriya Shema and we've spread it. When the Frierdiker Rebbe told the story, he said that many years later, his father explained to him, the Rebbe Rashab, that what is this Nakuda we're speaking about? It's the Nakuda Salev, it's the essence of the heart. The Nakuda of the heart, the Yechida, which is bound up in one with the Eivishter. The Rebbe says, there's a whole beard over here. I'm going to just translate it. Very strong words in the Sikha here. So Moida Ani said in the beginning of the day, as soon as a Jew wakes up, before he's done any mitzvah and Torah, because learning Torah has to be after he said Birchas HaTorah, and before even washing his hands. And therefore, every Yid, even a Jew that's only Shayach to Moida Ani, he's a Moida Ani Yid, because he has no other connection to Yiddishkeit, no manifested connection. This is 1963, friends. You see what the Rebbe's foundation here. Because all of the years of his life, he had no connection to Torah or mitzvahs. Even not to wash his hands. In Yiddish, as Nitkin Givashner, you can't try this. Nitkin Givashner means he's not a washed person. It doesn't ring in English. Nitkin Givashner, it's a state. He's not in a state of quote unquote purity. He has the Nekuda Pintele. And this Nekuda is bound up with the Melech Chai Vekayim Shechazarta Benishmasi. It's not dependent on him. If he wants, he has the Nekuda, and if he doesn't want, he doesn't have it. But the Eibishter is the Melech and the Balabas of the whole world. This Melech Chai Vekayim, he Shechazarta Benishmasi, gives every year this Nekuda. And this that Hashem gives is not as Ozechmatrim. He doesn't give it to him that he should have a difficult life. Like the world says, it's hard to be a Jew. Shvet is ein Yid. But it's Bechemla. It's out of God's compassion and love for us. Because Hashem is Rachmanis on him, with great Rachmanis, without limit, with like all of his attributes, which are boundless, and wants to give him all that is good, and Chaim Gashmim Kipshutam. This with such passion, such emotion, rather. Because everything has to be understood literally. We mean Bechemla, compassion, Begashmias. So he gives him this Nekuda, even though he has not learned Torah, hasn't done mitzvahs, and hasn't washed his hands. It would appear that his entire being has no connection to Tov and Kedusha. He has it. Now the question is, what's the value of him having it when he doesn't know anything about it or how to use it? Doesn't know what's written in Torah. He doesn't know what a mitzvah is. So therefore, Meida Ani concludes, Rabbi Munasecha, great is your trustworthiness, the faith in the Hashem, the faith in the Eibishter. That every Jew has this natural faith. Ma'aminim b'nei ma'aminim, and therefore irresistibly, this Nekuda will express itself. Today, tomorrow, it'll spread and permeate his entire body. Ramachivorov, and which is the 248 mitzvahs, and Shesagid of the 365 of his sinews, corresponding to the mitzvahs loisaseh. And again, not because Hashem wants to make it difficult, on the contrary, he wants to heap merit on the Yid, and therefore hirbel hem Torah mitzvahs, that he should have the true wealth and goodness physically in this physical world. So much so that from this Rabba Munasecha, that great is your faith, means our faith in you, it teaches here. Great is the faith that every Yid has in you, So then he comes eventually to Birchas Krishma, and he says, "Abona v'acharta v'keravton malkeinu l'shimcha godel," and concludes with "Aboiche b'amisol b'yavam." With this, the Jew says Shema Yisrael. Goes on to not get a whole arichas in this Fabrengen here that basically, believe in yourself and believe in every yid and believe in every human being. That I was hammering home here. Continuing the Maimah, friends. Yeah. So where we have to, we're in the Maimah. Hainu, by the number 31 in the text. Hainu, shmichad, yes? Shmichad gives on the one hand, the fact that we don't say Hashem's any of his holy names and Meida'ani indicates Allah Yesa Adam b'madreg in the Mucha. On the one hand, this conveys the fact that a person is holding it at a very low level. She cannot mention a holy name. He has not washed his hands. However, on the other hand, the holding of davening, what's the service of heart, says the Gemara. The Pasuk says we should serve Hashem with all your heart. How do you serve with your heart? You serve with your hands, you serve with your feet. How do you serve with your heart? That's davening. Davening expresses the whole point of all of the avodah throughout the day, which is to do what? Which is to spread and give expression to that essential connection that we all have. So it's all about effecting, liberating this nekuda of Meida'ani that everybody has with absolute perfection. How do you move? And it's understood therefore. So on the one hand, it's less than, but on the other hand, it's much more than any holy name or anything. And it's dafke when he says Meida'ani l'lo yaskor Hashem kodesh, without mentioning a name of Hashem, because the name is already a manifestation and a revelation to which he's connecting on a much deeper level to the essence. The revelation is not found in a place of everywhere. Revelation is only where there's the keli, but the essence is everywhere. So when he says Meida'ani, that's when the essence shines. Now the whole job simply is to reveal it in a sustained way. He has to see to it that it should permeate his entire being. Live authentically. That's what it's all about. Live authentically to what I am. And to explain this further, great praise, friends, coming for our generation. The Rebbe explains Allah Kosov, Vayish Moishe on of made Mikolod Mashep and the Admo. So Moishe was very humble before all people on the face of the earth. Moshe's humility was primarily when he saw our generation, the generation on the heels of Mashiach. So we called them the heels of Mashiach because very close, like on somebody's heels. You're right behind them. But the deeper meaning, this is an expression of Chazal, is to describe the state. We are just like a heel and a foot compared to earlier generations. We're saying we're nothing like the head, the mind, the foot. Certainly we are so far from the intellect of Moshe Rabbeinu. He was the first receiver of Torah. As we learned in the first Basilagani Maimer, his level was Atzmis HaChachma, the very essence of Chachma. Hayad Chachma Datzilis. Pnimi is the Etzem. And yet, Moshe Rabbeinu, is in awe and humble before our generation. Given because sin Sherosh Dafke Etzlom, it's Dafke in our generation, on the day of Ikvus the Mashiach, Yeshta Yina Mesiris Nefesh B'miyuchad. there's unique Mesiras Nefesh, ubeyoser, and even more so, because, first of all, Pashat, our generation has faced the test of faith that no other did. The Holocaust. There'd never been such a gzeira. All other gzeiras, there was always a way out, and you could renounce, and you'd be accepted, you could convert. There was an option. Here, there was no option. And the breadth of it, and the numbers, and the time, and yet Yidden are still Yidden, and still connecting and growing. And then, of course, there's the tests of America. The Holocaust is, how could there be a God? And America is, who needs God? The affluence and the success of America. So these unique tests, Ashur and Mitzrayim, wealth and Mitzrayim. Right? On that day they will come back. So Moishe Rabbeinu was in awe. So Al Mesiras Nefesh, it's not because we're so inspired. It's not our tshuva. It's not the heart-rending tshuva of former generations of fasting and deep emotion. Just push it. It's not deep at all, and that's his only spell. It's not coming from a very deep place, and yet tshuva. Why? Because it's coming from the essence. It's just simple. I'm a Yid, and that's it. It's deep in Mesiras Nefesh. The Chitzonius, it's less. Because where's the drama? Look at all the stories about Tshuva and the Gemara. Never mind the Gemara, just a few generations ago. Tshuva was a whole heart-rending, emotional experience. Now it's okay, we'll start keeping Shabbos. All right. Why not? So it's not less, it's more, because I'm a Yid. It's an atzmisdik Tshuva. And Moishe Rabbeinu appreciated that. And he was in awe of it. This generation is the Chidush B'Nefesh. I'm a Yid. That's what the children are crying out for. They don't know what they're crying for. But that's what it is. Like the Moshe that's brought on this, on the mile of the foot. It's easier to put the foot in hot water than the head. So the example is, the doctor says to do this because that's good for you. So he can't put his head in it. He understands it's the right thing, but he resists. But if you have to do it, you got to go into the hot water. He doesn't go head first. He goes with the foot first. Why? Because the foot doesn't feel. It's easier to put it in the hot water. So that's just bringing out our generation that just doesn't feel like previous generations. We're very low neshamas, bechitzonius. But what is expressed is the etzem. I am, not I feel.
But it's less Mesiras Nefesh.
It's less Mesiras Nefesh. In a way, yes, it's no big deal. Yeah, it's no big deal. But on the other hand, the fact is, it's a change in life. It is a change in life. And he's going into the hot water. It's just not, there's no drama to it. So it's less than on one level. And that's where he's so nispol. People are making dramatic changes in their life, and it's no big deal. No big deal. Which once upon a time, that would be who knows what.
Yeah.
But the Gmose ben Nimshal, and likewise in the Nimshal, talking about the Yidin Sha'od, the Machader B'Seichel, someone who's an intellectual, permeated with intellect. It's much harder for him to have Mesiras Nefesh, Masher Anoshim Shutim than simple folk who don't make cheshbonos. This is what it is. This is what it is. Simple folk, to begin with, don't have a connection to deep understanding. The intellectual, there's always another argument, and who said it's like this, maybe it should be like that, and to sacrifice it to make a real change. Very difficult. But the simple folk, yes. And simple folk just knows this is what you got to do, and he does so. So likewise, so Meidani is when we're all simple folk. I mean, that's the Metzias. You wake up in the morning before the mind is kicked in, before the ruminations and the analysis and the questions, and maybe it could be this way, it could be that way, and who says, and where is it written, and why? The mind's still in a fog. That's where he says, Meidani. Oh, that's the simple Yid is talking there, or the child within. And the Nakuda is, don't lose that. Take that Nakuda and permeate your consciousness and your behavior and the whole day. On the one hand, the chsornet of Meidani, he hasn't learned Torah yet. And he's only holding with Meidani. Yes, but this is its great virtue. If as long as he hangs on to the Meidani, he will have, and it's much easier for him to have Mesiras Nefesh, as opposed to someone who has, in Kedusha has questions. Torah is full of questions. But if that's his world, it's much harder to have the bottom line Kabbalah Selim and Mesiras Nefesh. Because questions are questions, and questions is the ego. From the questions in Torah, there can be questions that are not questions in Torah. That question the whole truth of the whole thing, not just this position, maybe there's another opinion, but all the opinions, as it were. So that's why he's got to deal with all that later. But if he can hang on to the Meidani, the way he woke up in the morning, so that's the Avodah that should permeate all of his learning and everything that he does later. But he should learn with the simplicity of a simple Yid. Let's finish the paragraph. And that's why the Alter Rebbe says that the Aschol and the Yesoid and the beginning and the foundation, the root of all Avodah is Leibin Shalavon of Asaga, not intellectual commitment. That has to come later. We're not dismissing the value of intellect, but it's got to come built on the earth, the bittul of the earth. And the binyan Kabbalah has to start the Kabbalah's oil. The three mitzvahs that you didn't have to do when they come to Yisrael, the same Tasim Malach HaMelech. The first as a king, and then to destroy the seed of Amalek, and then to build the Beis HaMikdash. So to appoint a king, that's the inyan of Melech. That's the first mitzvah. Coming home is same Tasim Malach HaMelech. That's the idea of Meidani Lefanach HaMelech. Living an eternal king. He's not connected yet to Yudke Vovke, all the Madregas and the Svidus and the Giluyim and the Torah and Mitzvahs. He can't even mention Hashem's name. Why? Because now he's addressing Melech, Chai V'Kayim. That's Kabbalah's oil. That's the foundation. To be continued, Be'ezer Hashem, tomorrow. Oh, no.